You're watching Experience Comic Culture and Sales. Streaming live daily to Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, and Twitter.
2, 1.
So an engineer dies, and he reports to the pearly gates, and St. Peter checks the list and says, you're an engineer. You're assigned to hell. So the engineer just goes, and reports to the gates of hell and is let in. And pretty soon he's looking around. He's like not very satisfied with how things are being done down there. With the level of accommodations and stuff. And he starts designing things and building improvements. And after a while, they ended up with air conditioning and serviceable toilets, escalators, elevators, and so on. And he becomes a pretty popular guy in hell. Well, one day God calls Satan on the phone and says, how's it going down there? And Satan says, hey, things are going great. We got air conditioning and flush toilets and escalators. There's no telling what our engineer is going to come up with next. And God's like, what? You've got an engineer? That's a mistake. He should never have been sent down there. Send him back immediately. Satan's like, no way. I like having an engineer on staff. I'm keeping him. God says, send him back up here now, or I'll sue you. And Satan just laughs, says, yeah, right. Where are you going to get a lawyer? Stay tuned for the Dan Wickline Show. Hey, everybody, welcome to the Dan Wickline Show here on The Experience. It is Thursday, November 9th. We are chugging through this year at a rapid pace. We had a little weird show yesterday, but getting back to our normal format today, or at least mostly our normal format. I still haven't gotten back to doing the key collectibles, but I will soon. Which I'm sure JD doesn't miss because that's extra work for him. But we're going to cover the news, and then we're going to talk about finally the end of the SAG-AFTRA strike, what they got, what it means, what's might be going back into production, how quickly, those kind of things. But I want to say hey to Triple B, and of course, like I said, JD's on the board. Ed must be late. Almost feel like I shouldn't start the show till he gets here. Just Triple B and Ed are always here. All right, but we will start the show. Netflix has and remember to stick around. We have Miss Jen with What's in the Box, and she just got a brand new collection in that she's going to be selling. So it's stuff she's never offered up before, and it looks pretty cool. So you want to check that out. And of course, on SketchUp, we had Amy and Justin will be joining Mog and Mel. They do a book called Ninja Witch. So you'll want to check that as well. Plus, it's fun to see people draw live. So no comic book beardies tonight. I thought about doing a live reaction show of Loki tonight when the season finale drops. But we're not sure how that would work exactly. Copyright, stuff like that. So we might figure that out for later on, but it's not going to happen. But so, yeah, stick around for What's in the Box and SketchUp. And let's jump into the news. They're throwing a pre-launch party for the Ninja Watch Kickstarter. Well, there you go. You definitely want to go to a party, especially when you can do it from your own house. All right, Netflix has announced it will release all 20 episodes of Star Trek Prodigy Season 1 on Christmas Day. Kind of a fun little Christmas present for everybody. Now, the streamer made the announcement during its annual Geeked Week. It announced last month that Netflix had picked up the animated series for the U.S., most international territories, and most international territories in the deal with CBS. The move came after Paramount Plus announced in June that it would be removing a number of originals, including Star Trek Prodigy, from the platform in a cost-cutting content write-down. And, the second season then will also debut on Netflix later in 2028. So that's pretty cool. I finally have Paramount Plus, but I haven't actually watched anything on it yet. But I do my grocery shopping through Walmart. I get it delivered. And part of signing up for their Walmart Plus is they give you Paramount. So I have that. So, all right. I don't think the Daryl Dixon spinoff series of The Walking Dead has even started yet. And they're already starting to cast for season 2. The resident alum Manish Deval has been tapped for a major recurring role in what's being called The Walking Dead, Daryl Dixon, The Book of Carol. That's what they're calling the second season, because yes, it'll have Norman Reedus, but the second season will revolve around Melissa McBride's character of Carol Pelliter. So that's why it's The Book of Carol. And it will reunite her with Reedus as Daryl Dixon. It's slated to premiere in 2024. The Y'all will play Ash, an engineer from Boston who moved to the family weekend house in Maine after the onset of the apocalypse. Ash lives by a strict schedule based mostly around his daily fights in a retrofitted single-engine plane and mysterious visitations to his backyard greenhouse. That sounds a little crazy, but you got to like how he has his own plane. A plane in a zombie apocalypse would be pretty damn cool, as long as you could get fuel. All right. This is kind of interesting news. We talked the other day about the box office and how it's getting smaller, and a lot of it comes from China not really either taking movies in for a long time, or the Chinese box office just hasn't gotten back to what it was. It's probably a third of what it was doing. Well, Warner Brothers film Wonka is going to get a release date in China a week before it opens here. So December 8th, it's going to roll out. And of course, that stars Timothée Chalamet. It'll open the same day as the Universal film Migration. So both of those will be opening up in China on the same day. Those are just two of a slew of Hollywood movies that have been recently approved for the massive market. I mean, that's pretty much the second biggest market out there. Disney's Marvels is going to be opening in China on Friday. Lionsgate's The Hunger Games, The Ballad of the Songbirds, and Snakes opens on the 17th. Disney's Wish on November 24th. And Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom has been cleared to be released, but it hasn't gotten a date yet. So it looks like China's going to be getting a lot of movies. Speaking of movies, we have a release date for Venom 3. It's pretty quick for them to already be kicking out a Venom 3 release date, but it's November 8th, 2024. Now, Sony already had that date on hold for a Marvel movie. It was, the movie previously had a July 14th date, so they moved it to this one. But yeah, there was no way they were going to be able to make July 14th with the actor strike going as long as it did. But now that they've got a 3-year deal. Oh, Ed, you're finally here. Good. Do I need to write you a note or something to make sure that you get out on time? Just give this to your boss. Yeah. Venom 3 is one of a handful of big Hollywood films looking to resume shooting as soon as possible before the end of the year. So yeah, there's going to be, I'm going to give you a list later on, but there's a couple movies where originally the producers and stuff, the PTP said that they wouldn't be able to really get things going again until the new year. But on a couple of films, they're going to get going immediately. Tom Hardy is going to return as, of course, Eddie Brock. It's being directed by Kelly Marcel, who wrote the screenplay for this, with a story that's actually come up with by Marcel and Tom Hardy. She wrote the previous ones as well. So she's been a part of the franchise since the beginning. She's just moving up to directing. So, though the first two movies did pretty well. I know there's some jokes about them or whatever, but between the two movies, they've made $1.36 billion worldwide. So yeah, I would keep cranking out Venom movies if I was them. Venom Let There Be Carnage owns the third best opening for an October movie at 90 million. And the first Venom film has the fourth best for October at 80.2. So, and with this date, Sony's going to have access to the IMAX screens and stuff. So that's all very good for them, and it's a good date. November, I think, does pretty well for hero movies because you're getting into the holidays. You're not quite at Christmas, but you still have, it's getting colder. You want to go do things inside. JD says, Venom is the candy corn of superhero films, and I can accept that. Absolutely. I got respect for the Venom movies. They're not great, but they're definitely fun. And you know what? Nowadays, I'm more for a fun movie. I mean, I want less of the Killer of the Flower Moon and Schindler's List and more of the big fun spectacles, John Wick, Mission Impossible, Marvel movies, because I want escapism. I want to, relax and have fun. And I think a lot of people are in that boat. So now this is interesting. You know how we talked about when Zaslav bought, when Discovery bought Warner Brothers and they killed the Batgirl movie. Well, they've done it again. In another maneuver by Zaslav and Warner Brothers Discovery, they've now killed, or they're not going to release, the live action / animated hybrid Coyote versus Acme. And they're basically taking a 30 million tax write-off on a 70 million production. So they would rather take the 30 million and walk away than try to make the 70 million back and spend the advertising money and stuff on it. The write-down for the pick was applied to the recent Q3 quarter or third quarter. This is the third time, like I said, that Zaslav has pulled the plug on a movie that had been greenlit and finished. The other two being the Batgirl movie and the animated Scooby Holiday Haunt. Now, the difference here, though, is that Coyote versus Acme is 100% complete and was actually getting very good test scores, 14 points above the family norm. Now, but the problem is that Warner Brothers is cash strapped and, they just don't have the money to promote it. Yeah. Well, the Barbie movie has helped, but I think most of that money is going to go after the big movies. I think that's going to be the problem, is they're going to have to focus on the big budget movies and try to make big swaths of money because they can't really spend the time to promote something that's not going to bring in a lot of cash. So they'll promote Aquaman. They'll promote Superman Legacy when that comes out. Either that or they're just trying to write down as much debt as possible to prepare it for another sale. But it was a very mixed quarter for Warner Brothers. And, this film was originally going to come out in July of this year, July 21st, but it got pulled So they were planning this for a while. That's the interesting thing, is it must have been decided then they were going to do it. They just didn't apply it until the third quarter. But what they ended up putting in the place of that was, of course, Barbie, which made $1.4 billion. So, yeah, that worked out pretty well, don't you think? All right, so that is the basic news for today. We are going to take our first break, and when we come back, we will talk about the SAG-AFTRA strike, what they got, and what it means. And we're probably going to have a little extra time, so if there's anything you guys want to ask, if we do have time at the end of the show, we can do a little AMA, or you guys, ask me anything you want. So be right back.
Why was Princess Zelda sad after watching a bunch of YouTube videos? She couldn't find a link in the description. We'll stop if you subscribe to our YouTube channel. It's super easy. Click subscribe and click the bell when you do. And thanks for supporting the EXP. What if Hans Gruber from Die Hard had to battle the Joker from Batman the Animated Series in a dance battle? Or who would win in a race between Baby from Baby Driver and Snidely Whiplash? If Austin Powers and Shrek found themselves in a hot dog eating contest, who would emerge victorious? These are the questions we talk about on Nerd Killer Warfare. Debate the most absurd questions you've ever heard in popular culture. Register now by scanning the QR code or visiting bit.ly/EXP casting. Programming on the EXP is made possible by viewers like you, or your local comic shop, or that Kickstarter you backed, or the publisher you like, or comic industry professionals who want to share a message with the world. Really, anyone who wants to advertise with us can. If you're interested in seeing a product you know and love, or are creating, or are publishing, or are involved with, advertised here on The Experience, and having your message shared with our viewers, please reach out by scanning the QR code below or visiting our website and using the contact form.
Everybody, welcome back. Two bits of news popped up while we were doing the original news. One of them is kind of interesting. Robert De Niro has been found not liable in the gender discrimination civil trial, but his company must pay his ex-assistant $1.2 million. I'm not sure how that works. How are you found not liable, but your company still has to pay? Does that mean other people in the company were liable? That's what it seems to be. De Niro Canal Productions was found liable for both gender discrimination. I got to pull the article up. Both gender discrimination and retaliation. So it turns out Robert had nothing to do with it, but his company did. So that's one interesting bit of news. But here's another one. If you were a fan, yeah, probably was. If you were a fan of the old TV series Spartacus that was on Stars, or there was another one that they did, a spinoff. Well, Stephen S. DeKnight, the guy who put it together, is getting back into doing Spartacus. Stars has greenlit a new 10-episode drama series called Spartacus House of Asher, with the return of DeKnight. Also, Nick Tarbay will be back. He's the one, of course, who played Asher. He was kind of the baddie of the series. He was the one that had the limp. He went on to play Captain Boomerang in the Arrowverse. So, yeah, Spartacus is coming back to Stars. I really liked that series. It was a good role for both Lucy Lawless and, it was good. I can't think of anybody's names right now. Manu Bennett. There was a lot of really good actors in that series that went on. I mean, if you look at Spartacus and then you start looking at the Arrowverse, they were pulling from Spartacus like crazy. Katrina Law, Nick Tarbay. I mean, every time the second actor to play Spartacus went on to be the second captain, not Captain Cold, Weather Wizard. So yeah, they pulled from Spartacus a lot. All right, so let's get on with our story. Now, as of last night, the strike has ended. There was the way that the negotiations work is there's a group of negotiators and a board, and basically the negotiators work back and forth with the negotiators for the AMPTP. The AMPTP is the Association of Motion Picture and Television Producers. They work opposite of SAG-AFTRA, and they go back and forth. And they came up with a deal yesterday that the board or everybody involved voted on and agreed unanimously. And now it's going to go to, it has a final vote tomorrow. That's the full board. And then it'll go to all the members after that. Ed says, sadly, I've given up on season 2 of Paper Girls. Was hoping, I believe they've already canceled that. I think that was canceled pretty quickly, actually. JD, maybe you could look for that real quick if you've got a minute and you're not busy. Yeah, he's running the boards. He's doing everything else. All right. So what was this deal? Now, when they say that it was unanimously voted on, it's going to go to the board. They got most of what they wanted. Nobody gets everything they wanted in a deal like this, unless you have like blackmail material. You got to give and take. So the new deal is described as being worth more than $1 billion over the next 3 years. The tentative agreement has an extraordinary scope, is what they're saying. Oh, okay, it was canceled. And is full of unprecedented provisions, according to SAG-AFTRA, while the fine print won't be made available until after the 160,000 guild members vote on Friday or this weekend. I think it's actually this weekend. But the new deal includes increases in minimum rates, a streaming participation bonus. That was one of the big tripping points, is that streaming services were not paying the royalties that you would get over broadcast. So streaming participation bonus, new health and pension caps, diversity guardrails, and a hard-fought AI protection provisions. So they got the majority of what they were going after. Did they get as much as they wanted? Who knows? But they talked to SAG-AFTRA. The two main negotiators were SAG-AFTRA president Fran Drescher and what's his name? Duncan Crabtree Ireland, who is the chief negotiator. And they talked to them afterwards. And Fresher said of the deal, we know that generations from now, they'll be talking about this seminal contract and reaping the benefits of it in the way that we have been for the last 65 years with a contract that was negotiated when Ronald Reagan was in my position. Crabtree Ireland went on to say, this strike was about people who are trying to make a middle-class living. And I think when the whole deal is put out in the public and people have all the different pieces of it, they will see that there is an overall commitment to improving the economic viability of a career as an actor in this business. And that's been the big thing. A lot of what I've heard is that the negotiations this time, it wasn't just for the big stars. They were focused on the actors in the middle class, making sure they could keep their health insurance, making sure their pension continues, making sure that they're not screwed over by AI and lose money that way. But they also stood up for the extras, and the extras actually had representation and were fought for. And this also involved a lot of the AI stuff. And having actually been an extra, I appreciate what they do. You know, it's you can't do these movies. You can't do these movies and shows without these people. And I know the whole idea of AI would change that, but the technology isn't there yet. So, yeah. So why did it take so long? According to Drescher, she said, we got the protections we needed in AI. We've got the funds that we needed for a new revenue stream. That was the two biggest outstanding pieces. The money was in place earlier. It was the protections that we were really holding out for. With AI, things moving very fast, and where 3 months is the equivalent of a year in how things can change. So if we didn't close this up now, then you'll be so far behind you'll never be able to catch up. It was really important to us that we got the protections we felt that was absolutely needed to sustain the contract until the next one. I mean, there's still things that we're already working on to get for the next contract, but there's so many milestones in this one. And I find that interesting because it's a 3-year contract. So the fact that they're already looking at what the next negotiations are going to be is interesting. And from the beginning, the AI part of it has been one of the biggest sticking points, and how the studios, what the studios basically wanted to do was, instead of hiring background actors, extras and stuff like that, and bringing them in for multiple days and paying them for multiple days, what they wanted to be able to do was to bring an actor in and pay them for 1 day, scan them, and then drop them into the background anywhere they needed them. And with that, also be able to do that on other films and productions. So basically, you could get 1 day's pay and end up in 25 different movies, 13 different TV series. You know, there'd be a database with you in it as an extra, and they could just pop you in anytime they wanted. You know, and they could probably like change the shirt, change the pants, you know, maybe make your hair a little longer, a little shorter, color your hair a little different. But the bottom line is that you would be in all these productions, but only paid once. They are still going to do that just with desperate non-union actors. It's possible. Now, originally, I mean, I've seen some of the current use of AI for extras, and it looks horrible. The technology isn't there yet. You know, they look like computer people. They look like video game non-player characters, NPCs, just standing there or doing the same motion over and over. But I was kind of surprised at how much AI was important to the studio, because I think if the compensation was there early and they were still fighting over AI, that means the studios really wanted that ability. And like I said, I don't think the technology's there yet. So that means that the studios thinks it is, or at least potentially is. I thought they were just going to use it as a bargaining chip. Like, we're not going to get AI. We don't care about AI, but we're going to beat you over the head with it until we get everything else we want. And then we'll give you AI. I kind of thought that was going to be how it worked out, but no, they were seriously wanting AI. And it really drugged the talks out. It made it go on longer. So I think that's pretty fascinating. JD says, yeah, but the whole strike wasn't about today. They know the tech will get there and they wanted to set a precedent. But see, that's what I was talking about. It's only a 3-year contract. So they could give up the AI now and try to get it back then. But yeah, I'm really surprised. Crabtree Ireland went on to say, he kind of spoke about the AI protections they achieved. He said, I will say I think our proposals are more specific than the ones that you've seen in other contracts because our members are experiencing the use of AI right now. This is not something that's coming down the road. This is something that is currently happening. So we don't have any specific protections around the creation and use of digital replicas, including informed consent for any creation and the use, as well as compensation structures for how people should get paid, both for the creation and the use of digital replicas. One way to protect against the use of generative AI is to create what we would call synthetic fakes. Synthetic fakes is kind of a redundant term, which are synthetic assets that are created out of potentially multiple actors' inputs. Oh, so he's talking about merging multiples together. Hey, Jay. So basically, he's trying to block that from happening without the actor's specific inputs. Where there's any kind of recognizable elements of that, there will be protection and the right of consent, as well as the right for the union to be notified when they're created and a right to bargain for compensation. So that, I think, is interesting. So not only is there now a compensation structure, but the studios have to inform the guild and the actors that it's being done. Repeatedly redundant, exactly. So, but again, I come back to the fact that this is a three-year deal. We just went on a 118-day strike that shut down every movie and TV series in Hollywood, more so than the writers' strike did, because there was a bunch of stuff that was already ready to film, and all they had to do was start filming. When the actors went, that was it. But 3 years doesn't seem like a very long time. I mean, we're at 2023. That means by the end of 2026, there could be another actors' strike. The whole thing could get shut down again. That's pretty crazy, I probably would have tried to hold out for a little longer, but then again, I can see it from the guild side, because things have changed so much since their last contract, things that they never even thought of. And, like streaming. There were no streaming services back the last time they did a contract, so there was no compensation structure for streaming. There was no AI, so there was no rules for AI. There was, so all of this stuff came about since the last contract. But technology is moving faster and faster. Just look about in our own lives. What technology you had as a kid compared to your 20s, your 30s, your 40s, your 50s, whether it's video game systems. Now, I'm old enough that I started with an Atari 2600. And then there was the Nintendo and the Super Nintendo and all of these game systems and Xbox and Sony PlayStations. But all of that advancement and how the games are, that was all done in a relatively short period of time. Or you look at something like the cell phone. You know, we went from having these bricks of cell phones to these little flip phones to basically walking around with a tricorder or a personal computer in our pocket that takes pictures, makes videos, edits them, plays games, and sends messages, and occasionally actually works as a phone. And they're constantly upgrading. More memory, better camera, better equipment, better, you know. So technologically wise, where we are 3 years from now, there might be a whole new set of problems, a whole new set of issues to deal with. So, all right. So let's talk about what does this mean for the studios. Now, we mentioned Venom, but the studio said, and at near the end there, it was getting pretty interesting because the AMPTP, that is a real tough one to say, basically gave till Wednesday as their deadline. Yesterday was their deadline. Like, look, we need to either do this now or we're going to lose an entire year worth of stuff. You know, we need to get started. We need to make a deal now. And how seriously they took Actors Guild or the Screen Actors Guild took it, they made the deal. So, but one of the things the studio said was even if they made a deal, the odds were they weren't going to be able to get things back into production until well into next year. Turns out that's not necessarily true. It seems that a couple things are going to go back into production right away. Marvel Studios and Disney's Deadpool 3, starring Ryan Reynolds and Hugh Jackman, directed by Sean Levy, is already 50% complete, and they're going to start on it like right after Thanksgiving. They're going to get right back into it. See, that was the other thing is that they did with the holidays and stuff, they weren't going to fire things up until after that too, but no. Anything that's close to done or well into it, they're just going to jump back into it. Gladiator 2, which is being done over in Europe, that's from Paramount. That's going back to getting picked back up. This is interesting. Beetlejuice 2 from Tim Burton only had 2 days left to shoot. So they're definitely going to finish up. Juror number 2 from Clint Eastwood, which only has about a dozen days left. That's going to fire up immediately. And, of course, Sony's Venom. Other projects that have a priority to resume shooting, the adaptation of Colleen Hoover's best-selling novel, It Ends With Us, that stars Blake Lively and Justin Baldoni. This pick was paused by WGA Pickets back in June. Now, the movie is supposed to come out February 9th, 2024. I don't know if that's going to make it. That's pretty short. I mean, unless it's like it's a 90-minute movie filmed in a single location, that's probably going to take a little more time. And we got word that Superman Legacy is now scheduled to start filming in March. So we already know quite a few of the cast of that. But, you know, maybe we'll start getting the rest of the cast, get a better idea who the villain's going to be, stuff like that. As for television, quite a few television shows are going to return to production pretty quickly. You know, again, it was going to be a while, but some streaming ones like Stranger Things for Netflix, The Penguin for Max, Welcome to Derry, Hacks, Yellowstone, which seems to be the big thing fueling Paramount. Those are all expected to start filming again very soon. The very first one that's likely to start production, though, that maybe as soon as, what is today? Today is the 9th. So they're talking about starting filming next week on the 15th, and that's the new series Night Court, second season of it. Other shows that are looking at a late November production, and this is a long list. This would be right after Thanksgiving, so it might be, 27th is Thanksgiving, 28th, 29th, 30th. Unless they're going to start on the weekend or the Friday after Thanksgiving, then they're going to be at December 1st. But Abbott Elementary, The Rookie, Grey's Anatomy, Bob Hart's Abishola, NCIS, Tracker, Young Sheldon, FBI, FBI International, FBI Most Wanted, The Equalizer, Blue Bloods, Chicago Fire, Chicago PD, Chicago Med, Chicago whatever. I mean, I could just make up Chicago names and FBI names, and you guys wouldn't notice the difference, would you? Law and Order SVU, The Irrational, which is the new show from Jesse L. Martin, Quantum Leap, Pretty Little Liars, and The Sandman. Sandman Season 2 is going to kick off pretty soon, too. Then early December, we're supposed to see production start on The Cleaning Lady, All-American, 911, Will Trent, Ghosts, The Neighborhood, Duster, and Grownish. And I'm going to admit that a few of those names in there I had never even heard of. I don't know what The Neighborhood is. I don't know what Duster is. But they're going to start up production again. So Jay says, man, I was hoping it would get to the point where the EXP would start making series. Was really wanting to see Not Without My Wickline. Jay needs to get out more. He really does. Yeah, but I think it's great that we're going to get these shows back up. The actors are going to get back to work. Production's going to start up. And besides the fact that this means all those great shows that we've been wanting, the movies and stuff we've been anticipating, it also means that I'm going to have things to cover again. I don't have to think about, wait, am I pandering too much to the studio for saying this? I'm not part of the SAG-AFTRA Guild, but I have some, acting training and stuff. It could be interesting, but yeah, I'm just going to be happy that I don't have to think about what I'm saying as, am I going to upset one of the guilds? I just have to think about what I'm saying. Is that going to upset the higher ups here at the Experience? JD says, oh, I know why they offered a deal. Now, the exec grandparents kept yelling at them, where's my blue bloods? I would agree with you, but I think it's actually because there's been rumors that Mark Harmon is going to return to NCIS for a few episodes next season, and every grandparent in America is demanding that to happen. They love Mark Harmon. Yeah, I'm not even sure where that came from. I mean, I know he did a couple movies, did some TV shows, and then he gets on, and he was an ex-football quarterback. I think it was USC or something, UCLA maybe. And then he gets on this show where he's basically playing Joe Friday and becomes a huge hit. In a show that people, maybe it's just real easy to remember 4 letters, NCIS. Yeah, I know that one, NCIS. I wonder if half the people even know what that stands for. But no, my mom, every episode of NCIS she's seen. Absolutely loves it. And all the spin-offs too. NCIS Hawaii, NCIS New Orleans, wherever they put an NCIS, my mom's got it turned on. Gibbs represents the gruff father figure that boomers grew up with. Summer School was my first experience with Harmon, and I never looked back. Yeah, Summer School was a cool movie. I really liked his role on West Wing. I thought he was really good on West Wing. And, you know, there's a lot of actors appeared on West Wing that we forget about. You know, because you always think about the main cast, Martin Sheen, Bradley Whitford, Rob Lowe. And then every once in a while you go, you know, Matthew Perry was nominated for an Emmy for his role on The West Wing. You're like, wait, what? You know? Oliver Platt was on The West Wing. John LaRoquette was on The West Wing. Roger Rees was on The West Wing. John Amos was on The West Wing. I mean, you can just go down that list. Gary Cole, Tim Matheson, James Brolin. It just goes on and on. Alan Alda. That last season with Jimmy Smits and Alan Alda was probably the best season they had since Aaron Sorkin had left. I'm a fan of West Wing. I guess we've never really talked about that, but I'm also a political junkie. I'm the guy that watches the debate coverage and the after debate coverage, and you know, and check the polls. And by the way, anybody looking at polls a year before the election and say, oh my God, this is going to be horrible. The only people who are actually participating in polls a year before the election are angry people that want change. If you're content, you tend to skip that. And I'm curious if anybody here has ever actually participated in a poll. Did you ever get the call? Did you ever give who you're voting for? I think most people hang up on it until they get, they keep calling and keep calling just to get that. And do we really want to take the, not the advice, but do we really want to be the barometer of where the country is going, to be the people who actually stop and answer polls? Just something to think about. You and Kyle. Oh, so Kyle likes West Wing too? Or Kyle's a political junkie? Sorkin nut. Oh, yes. You guys, have any of you seen Sports Night? This was before West Wing. And it was basically an ESPN station. And it had this amazing cast of Robert Guillaume, Felicity Huffman, Peter Krause. I can't remember the other gentleman's name. And just the guy that went on to play Will Bailey in West Wing. I mean, just a great base cast. Josh Molina, thank you. But then they would go on and they would bring in these other characters. And at one point, Clark Gregg was in the series. I'm just zoning on names today. The guy from Shameless. William. Come on, JD. Was married to Felicity Huffman. William H. Macy, thank you. And it was just a fabulous show. The problem was they did a half hour. They did it in a half hour, and people thought it was a sitcom, but there was no laugh track. But it was a Sorkin thing. So there was humor, but there was also some great drama. And if you ever want to watch the best episode of television ever, it's the one about Casey's shirt. Oh, it also had Ted McGinty from Love Boat and Married with Children. But yeah, the Casey's shirt episode, where Casey misplaces his favorite shirt and how that works into just, yeah, JD agrees. The shirt episode is one of the best pieces of television writing ever. Hands down. Jay says, I was on a poll for my 23rd birthday. My buddy paid them to get me up there, and I went in the wrong poll. Okay. Was there music going on when you were on the poll? And people seated around it? All right, we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we'll wrap up the show. Be right back.
Did you know that every experience show, including some exclusive content, streams on Twitch? Check it out, twitch.tv/the_EXP. Or just scan that QR code. According to a statistic that I just made up, people spend 4 hours a day changing the television channel. People who watch the experience don't do that. Save yourself a ton of time by tuning into the experience and enjoying our new original programming 7 days a week. And then tell your friends. Think about the money they could save on batteries in the remote alone just by tuning into the experience. Find out more by scanning the QR code below.
To be continued. 3 little words that hold the secret to the next great story. 3 words that will thrill you, confound you, give life to new possibilities. Every variation of To Be Continued is a promise of adventure, a promise of excitement, a promise of unseen wonders and unexplored worlds, a promise that every issue you read makes you a part of a never-ending journey, and behind every page there will be an unopened door waiting for you. This story to be continued at your local comic book shop. Visit comicshoplocator.com today.
You know how when you go to Comic-Con, after Comic-Con, you go to the hotel bar, and there's a whole bunch of people playing music and dancing, and you've got Pikachu and Lara Croft Tomb Raider doing the cha-cha slide just down from Deadpool and Batman and Wonder Woman? That's every Saturday night over on the Experience Twitch channel. Join Taji Beats for the EXP Dance Party, exclusively on Twitch, twitch.tv/the_EXP. Go follow the experience on TikTok at @the_EXP1 or scan the QR code on the screen. Our TikTok is like everywhere else we are, except you only have to deal with us for a minute. Seems like a win-win to me.
Welcome back. Remember to stick around for What's in the Box and Sketch Up tonight. One more news story just dropped real quick, worth talking about, and then we'll wrap it up. Now that the actor strike is over, the actors can go out and promote their movies and their TV shows. And that's been one of the things that have kind of hurt some films, is not being able to go out and promote it. Well, a little surprised on which network it is, but tomorrow night on The Tonight Show with Jimmy Fallon on NBC, Brie Larson and Tom Hiddleston are going to be on the show promoting the Marvels and the season finale of Loki. Now, the reason I'm surprised is I thought they would go on Jimmy Kimmel, being that it's an ABC show and Disney owns ABC, but they actually got the Tonight Show to bump one of their guests. They're still having Eric Idle on, and they're still having musical guests Rick Ross and Meek Mill. But this is going to be on Friday's show. Now, maybe, they're going to hit some other ones, but this is, I figured it would be something quick. They were going to try to put the stars of the Marvels out there as quickly as possible to drum up some excitement for the movie, and that they would get Loki or Hiddleston out there. But putting them both on, that's great. So, all right, guys, that is going to wrap it up for today and for the week. We didn't do Pop Go the Writers on Sunday because Jim was at a convention all day, and while he was driving back, he was just very tired. He had worked the entire day, so he begged off. But we will be on this Sunday. We will be talking about the Loki season finale, and then we will do a full show about the finale on Tuesday of next week. Also next week, we're probably going to talk about some surprise characters and stuff that are popping up in the Marvels. So, we'll cover that as well. And we'll see what else we've got going on. So thank you guys for tuning in. Remember to hit the like and subscribe buttons, the thumbs up buttons, and tell your friends we are trying to drive to 2,500 by Thanksgiving. So if you could help get some friends to sign up, it would be greatly appreciated. Have a great weekend. Good night, everybody.
Do you remember what it was like when you were a little kid and you got a letter in the mail? Now imagine that letter was filled with information about your favorite shows, pop culture questions, links to things you're going to want to see later, and even sneak peeks at upcoming programming here on The Experience. That's what the EXP mailing list is. Every week, we send you sneak peeks, information, and all of the relevant links for all of the shows you want to see. Sign up now on our website or scan the QR code that's on your screen right now.